Hello, my name is Hans Schumann, and I am going to be the instructor for this class, uh, BUAD 2374, International Business. Okay. From looking at the roster, I recognize a few of the names, but there's a bunch of names that I don't recognize. So, for those that I don't know and those who don't know me, welcome. It's a pleasure to meet you. Um, and for those that I do know, welcome back. Okay, it's a pleasure to have you in class. All right, let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing over the next 5 weeks. Okay, this class is called International Business. It has two words in it: international and business. Okay, so what we are going to be covering is on the international side, how things are different around the world. Okay. And that includes things like culture, it includes things like legal systems, it includes a whole bunch of stuff that is just plain not the same as it is here in South Texas. All right. The other word is business. This is a business class. Now, it is a 2000 level business class, which basically means it's pretty much an introductory level. Okay, so many of you are business majors, and theoretically, if you took this 2000 level class, maybe as a freshman or a sophomore, this would be your first introduction to business. Okay. This class is also a Gen Ed class for students around the campus. So we have students that are in this class that are not business majors. All right. So for them, the introductions that we do in various parts of uh, parts of business, okay, is new to them. Uh, for those of you who are an upper level student, junior or senior in a college of business, and you just never took this class earlier on in your sequence for whatever reason, okay, the business part of what we talk about is going to be a refresher and maybe get you to step back and say, oh, yeah, that is the big picture of what we're doing in marketing, or that is the big picture of why accounting is important. And for you, it might be a refresher to go back and really, you've been in the forest, uh, you've been in the trees. It's time to step back a little bit and talk about the forest, right? We will talk about how business, the things you need to do international business and international business is the same types of things that we need to be doing in domestic business, right? The only difference is when we talk about international, things get a little bit more complicated. You are probably going to hear me say that frequently, okay, during this semester. But let's talk a little bit about how this class is going to be delivered. This class is an entirely online class, right? So we are not meeting, we are meeting uh, asynchronously, sometimes through videos like this one. I hope to have a video like this maybe once a week or so, maybe 4 or 5 videos during the semester. You will be on self-paced. Well, not really self-paced because I'm going to have a schedule for you, but you are on your own to be doing your reading. The book that we utilize is this one right here, International Business, and you'll be able to see the ISBN number in the syllabus and so on and so forth. This is the required book. All right. This book comes in different formats. It comes in the physical book, which is available in the library. It also comes in electronic versions. I believe there are a couple different electronic versions. Amazon sells it using their Kindle application. So if you have a Kindle and you like to read books off of that, or you have a Kindle app on your computer, Amazon has that as a electronic format. There are other electronic formats that are available for those that don't like the Kindle version. Okay, a couple of comments about the book. All right, I like this book. Okay, this book is straightforward, easy to read, and I like how they present cultural differences, which I think is a very interesting part of this class. Unfortunately, this is going to be the last semester that I'm going to be using this book. In the fall, I'm switching over to a new textbook. And honestly, the only reason I'm switching over to the new textbook is this one has gotten a little bit old. Okay, it's the second edition. It's better than the first edition, but there are significant things that have changed over the period of time since it was written. For instance, there are chapters on NAFTA. That's fine and dandy, except NAFTA has been replaced. Okay, during the Trump years, NAFTA was renegotiated, so it is now essentially the USMCA agreement, U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement. Okay. Realistically, it's NAFTA 2.0, okay? But the name has been changed and some things have been altered in it. Okay? Not as huge of a shift as it was made out to be, but it's different. In addition, the European Union has changed. The British have gotten out of the European Union. You wouldn't get that from this textbook because it's too old, right? You have other countries that are clamoring to get into the EU, right? Countries like Albania wants to get in real desperately. And one of the things that we're dealing with right now, and even the new textbook that I'm going to have is going to be a little bit dated already because we have things going on worldwide having to do things like Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, and how it is fundamentally changing some things. And Ukraine, basically, it looks like is going to be on the path to enter the European Union. They probably won't be entering NATO, but they will probably enter the European Union. Okay? Stuff like that, over time, internationally changes. And unlike a stats textbooks, which statistics doesn't change from year to year to year to year, a textbook on international business does. And until they come up with edition 3, I'm just going to have to go starting next semester with another more updated. So this is going to be the last semester we're using this book. All right. The reason I tell you that right now is if you are going to be buying the textbook under the idea that you are going to sell it to your friend who is taking international business in the fall, it's not going to work for you. All right, so you may want to choose renting the book instead of buying it outright, unless you just want to hold on to the book. Okay, as we speak about books, you'll notice on the syllabus there is a second book. That book is recommended. The title of that book is Kiss, Bow, or Shake Hands. Okay, and unlike this book, which is a textbook, and you probably will not hold on to. And if you do, look in the mirror, you're a pack rat. Okay? The other book is only a recommended book for this class. It may help you do your project, uh, but it is not required uh, per se. But if you buy that textbook, that book, that is one that I recommend that you do not rent, you buy, and you hold on to. All right. I don't have a copy of it to show you right here. It's in my office, and I'm making this video from home. But essentially, that book goes chapter by chapter by chapter, and every chapter is a different country. And there are 20 or 30 pages on every major country as to what you need to know as an introduction if you were to be hosting people from that country in your business, or if you are on a business trip going abroad and needing to negotiate and, uh, and and do things for your business in a foreign country, right? So it is a good reference book. Okay, it is an easy read, and it is something that it's nice to have uh, around the house, especially if you think you want to have an international aspect of your career, right? That one is relatively cheap, uh, and buy a used copy and just hold on to it if you are so inclined. All right. The textbook, I think will run you about $60 if you are renting it, somewhere around there. But you can check out the various sites. Amazon Dealoz.com is a good site that has different. It's a mega shopping site that will um, show you where you could possibly get this and other textbooks. And then, of course, it is available at the university bookstore as well. All right. So we're going to be going through this book. It is an easy book to read. It is an easy book to comprehend, and hence it is a very, in my opinion, a very good choice for an online class like we have here, and especially an online class that is only 5 weeks long. All right. Okay, so we're going to be taking care of that. All right. So, in addition, we're going to be doing a couple other things during this semester. We will be watching a movie called The Bonsai People. All right. That movie is available through a service called Canopy, which our library is a member of. So we, as students and faculty members through the library, have an access to Canopy, and you can get the film for free through that. It's also available on Amazon and a couple other streaming services for a couple bucks if you really want to. And there is a DVD with it at the library. So there's various sources to watch that movie. So that's going to be included as a requirement in addition to the textbooks. We'll have a few other videos during the period of time, some advertisements and things like that that I think are going to add color to this class. All right. So let me spend a few seconds and talk about the syllabus. The syllabus you should be able to find on Blackboard on the section I called syllabus. And the current version will be put up and it may be changed as we progress through the class. Okay, if we do change the syllabus, I'll put the updated version on Blackboard. One thing that people may be worried about, well, are you going to change how we're going to be graded and things like that? Well, if we change anything on the syllabus, especially if it has to do with grading, it's going to be to your advantage and not the other way around, right? But we'll deal with that. Mostly, if we do have changes, it'll be in timing issues. Um, Maybe speed things up if we can, slow things down if I get the feedback we need to do that. Okay, so uh, the syllabus is out online. Let me kind of walk through the various parts of the syllabus because that's what I would normally do if this were an in-person class. Right. First of all, let's talk about how to get in touch with me. All right. The probably over the summer, since I am not teaching any in-person classes, I am going to be physically at the university very few times. So all of our office hours are going to be remote. Okay. On the syllabus, I have some certain times that I have put in place. Honestly, send me an email anytime. All right. I just put times down because I'm required to. Okay. Uh, you can contact me at any point. Okay. Email is probably the best way to reach me. If you send me an email, please reference this class in the subject line so that when I'm glancing over all of it, I can immediately see, oh, this one is something from a student and not from a book publisher or something like that, right? So make sure you reference BUAD 2374, International Business, somewhere in this subject line, right? So I will immediately see it. Okay. Anyways, if you want to reach me um, via phone, my office phone is there, and during COVID, I had it forwarded to my cell phone. I will probably do that again, right? If I can remember how to forward the phone, I'm going to try to get that done as soon as possible, right? If you want to meet via Zoom, happy to do that. All right. So that's kind of a little compromise, face to face, but not in person. All right. Okay. Let me kind of walk through some of the stuff on the syllabus. Okay. So in here, we talked about how to reach me. Okay. We talk about in the syllabus the CBA mission statement, vision statement, tells you what we're trying to accomplish. And then we talk about the BBA learning goals. These are the learning goals that we, as a bachelor's of business administration, want to teach through all of our classes, our students. And you'll see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and right underneath that I have the words, this course addresses BBA program goals numbers 1, 2, 3, and 5 through the study of business, international business, including the class presentations. The only one of the program goals that this class doesn't seem to cover a little bit is number 4, which is use of things like technology, Excel and stuff like that. We're not going to really be doing that. But everything else we touch on in this class. Okay, it's a little bit of an overview. All right. All right. The student learning outcomes, the objectives for this class are the following. Recognize the terminology of international business. Okay. Being able to understand the vocabulary that people talk about. Apply the principles of international business to decision making. So when you are in a position in a business, or even as a consumer, that you can use this information. Number 3, identify the flows of commerce around the world. Okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about how the world has become interconnected. All right. So some of you may be watching this on an iPad or an iPhone, and they may be assembled in China. You may say they're made in China, but really the better term is they're assembled in China. And the flow of goods is not as simple as we got these from China, because the Chinese put these factories, put these things together, and they have parts that came from all over the world. So the screen may have come from Taiwan. Okay. Some of the processors and some of the chips may have come from Korea, or in some cases, there's some products that were made in the United States, shipped to Apple in China, put in when they assembled the product, and sent back to the United States. So when we think about a product like an Apple product, and we start talking about, well, where is it made? Well, it's made all over the world, right? The final assembly place may have been China. The same thing is true for some other products that go the other direction. Okay? Boeing aircraft are assembled here in the United States, but there are parts of the Boeing airplane that are made throughout the world, and then they're shipped to Seattle or other locations here in the U.S., and they get put back together and made into an aircraft, right? That is made in the United States. Yeah, a lot of the parts are foreign. Okay, we got my family just bought a Hyundai Tucson. Okay, my wife bought it. It's assembled in the United States, but some of the parts come from Korea or other places, right? So we really, one of the things we're going to understand a little bit is the flow of commerce around the world and how companies choose to do that and the implications of that. It's been a very interesting couple of years, and some of those supply chain issues have come back to become a lot more important than they were a few years ago when everything ran smoothly. But with COVID and now with the war in Ukraine, things aren't quite as smooth as they were in the good old days of 3 or 4 years ago. Anyways, we'll talk about stuff like that during this semester. The fourth one, recognize how cultural differences impact international business. This is probably what I consider to be the most interesting part of the course. Understanding the differences in society and cultures around the world, and the differences, therefore, in how they approach the world. Right? A few of you, I had the pleasure of going with to Germany on the study abroad program. Okay, and hopefully maybe during this semester I'll get them to talk a little bit about the experiences of learning the cultural differences between the United States and what they observed in Germany. Okay. All right. During that study abroad program, the motto of that program is, it's not better, it's not worse, it's different, right? And we need to understand those differences. And in some cases, we may want to learn from each other. And in some cases, there really isn't that much learning, because both organizations, both countries do things differently because they're in different situations, right? But we have to understand that. And that's kind of I think, the most interesting part of this class. Okay. Um, Identify how international business impacts sustainability. Okay. Sustainability is an important thing worldwide. Okay. We talk about ethical issues. We talk about things like global warming. Okay. And I live on the water here, right? The impact of climate change and other issues impacts me a lot different than it does somebody who lives in Canada. Global warming may very well be an indication that they will have better uh, a farming environment in the future, right? But if it means that we get even less rain than we normally do here in South Texas, it might destroy the cotton industry, right? So things are changing, and we have to understand the sustainability around the world. Okay, and as such, we need to understand all of the stakeholders of international business and how they get impacted. All right, so that's essentially the types of things that we'll talk about during this semester. Now, a few things you always, as students, are interested in is grading, how we're going to do grading, right? Well, it's going to be a there's going to be a lot of self-learning, right? Reading the books, looking at the slide presentations of that chapter, doing the quizzes that's associated with that, and so on and so forth. Okay, we're going to have chapter quizzes. So every chapter, and for a good chunk of this class, it may very well be a chapter a day for many classes. There'll be a quiz for every chapter, or at least every other chapter. We might have a quiz for 2 chapters instead of one for itself, right? And that will be 25% of the grade. 50% of the grade is going to be major tests. They're going to be three major tests. Basically, the first one will be like a midterm, test 1. Test 2 will be at the end of the semester, pretty close to the end of the semester, and cover everything from test 1 to test 2 to the end of the class. And then the third major test is going to be a comprehensive final that covers everything, basically from the first 2 tests, from the first day of class all the way to the end. Okay. Of those 3 tests, I will count the top 2. So I will drop the lowest of your test grades. Okay. And that average, after the lowest is dropped, is 50% of your class. 15% of your class is going to have to do with a project, a class group project. Now, I know you guys love group projects, right? For many of you, the answer is no, right? In a regular 12-week semester, my attitude is tough cookies. We're going to do a group project because that's the way business gets done, right? Everything in business is working with a group. And those of you who complain about, well, I have team members that are pulling their weight and so on and so forth, get used to it. That's the way it is. All right? And if you get into business, you got to learn how to deal with that. Now, in a 5-week short session, okay, we don't have the luxury of letting you fight through that if you have a difficulty in your groups. So what I will allow you to do in your group project is if you would prefer, after being assigned with your group, and there'll be probably 3 people per group, right? If you want to do the project individually, you can. If your group gets together and says, you know what, why don't we all do the project individually? That'll be a lot easier. Fine, go ahead and do it. If one of you wants to do it individually and the 2 others want to do it together, fine, do that. Just let me know as to which way you're going to do it. All right, so we will assign you into groups of 3, and if you want to opt out of the group and make that group an individual project, fine, you can do that. You're still going to be expected to complete the assignment. But anyways, with a 5-week shortened window, I really just, this is easier to do this way, right? Now, other thing, that leaves 10% left over. That 10% is class participation, okay? When I go on the Blackboard, I can see who spent time on Blackboard. And it's one of those things that, I don't want to say Big Brother is watching you, but Blackboard is watching you, and your professor knows when you logged on and so on and so forth. To the extent I will have some discussion boards. If you want all your class participation, great, participate in discussion boards, right? And that's 10% of your class, right? One last little tidbit. In the decade since I went to school, I don't know when it happened, but a D was always 65, C was 70, B was 80, and so on and so forth. But a D was 65. I don't know when that ever moved down to 60. But I'm sorry, 60 is not a passing grade. 60 is just knowing a little bit more than a half of what you need to know, right? It's not passing, all right? If you want to pass this class, you're going to need to get a 65 on average, right? As a weighted average. Other little word of warning, the syllabus tells you, and I just told you what the percentage is. Blackboard does a very poor job, and maybe it's because I don't know how to, maybe instructor error, but Blackboard, when you look at their average grades, they don't do the weighting, and they don't drop the lowest grade, and they don't know how much quiz is worth compared with a test or a major project and so on and so forth. So don't look at any computed average on Blackboard as meaning anything at all, right? The grading formula is the one that's on the syllabus. All right. All right. Course projects and stuff like that. I'm just going to leave it. We covered that. Course delivery. I said once a week or so, 3, 4, 5 times during the semester. I will probably do a video like I'm doing right now to talk a little bit about stuff like that. But anyways, that's kind of things like that. Cheating. Don't. Please don't cheat. It's not worth it. A few different things to point out. One is, if you find something on the internet, and I suspect this doesn't sound right, I can find what you have faster than you originally found it, right? It's not hard, right? Now, second thing is, I know there are paper mills out there, okay, where you can pay somebody to write your paper for you. Well, I got words for you. Don't. When you write a document, there are meta files that are attached to your Word document or your PowerPoint and things like that. And they talk about, those files talk about what computer it was uh, written on, what the timestamp was, and things like that. If you buy something from one of those sources, their computer people have erased all of the information that would normally be on a file, okay? And it's all blank. So when I look at a computer file and I want to see, did this person actually write it? It can be pretty obvious to me pretty quickly, right? That all of the required files that would normally be on Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoint documents, okay, are missing. It's a huge, huge red flag to me. It's an indication those things don't go missing for no reason whatsoever. Somebody actively took them off. Why? To protect you, the purchaser, from having your professor find out that somebody else wrote it. Guess what? It didn't do anything other than protect them, because I know that somebody else wrote it, because it doesn't have your meta information on it. I just don't know who you hired. Don't do it. Okay? When it comes to intellectual honesty, okay, I will tell you, and unfortunately I have to do this probably at least once a semester or so. If I catch you cheating, okay, one of the very first phone calls I make is to the dean of students. You, regardless of what the outcome is going to be with me, the dean of students is going to be copied on the fact that I have accused you of intellectual dishonesty, right? And it will be in their records. If in my conversations with the dean of students, I find out that you have had a problem with academic honesty with another professor on the university, I will be very much on the lobbying to have you kicked out of the university. Not a hand slap, kicked out of the university. All right? If it's a first offense, I'm probably going to not be nearly that aggressive, but you will be reported and it will be documented with the dean of students. So if an engineering professor or a psychology professor or anybody else catches you cheating, okay, it won't be your first offense, it'll be your second offense, and you'll be treated as a repeat offender. Don't do it. By the way, my projects aren't that hard. Okay, it's going to be easier for you just to do the projects than it is to be explaining to somebody what the requirements are of doing it and finding the resources and so on and so forth. Okay? Which gets me to the next little spot. Giving credit. Plagiarism. Right? Now, in my opinion, it is not cheating when you use the work of other people. You just need to admit it and to document it. As a matter of fact, in business, very, very, very few bosses care about whether your great idea was your great idea. They care about, is it a good idea, right? And if you state where you got the information, or maybe even the idea, it doesn't weaken your argument. It strengthens it. Okay? It gives more credibility. So, borrow with pride, but that pride includes giving credit. All right? And it makes your paper stronger. It doesn't make it weaker. If you are out in business, your boss doesn't give a rat's ass about your originality. Right? He cares about you presenting the information that is valuable in making determinations and telling people where that information came from. Okay? Strengthens your argument. It doesn't make it weaker. It doesn't make you weak. Right? So, I don't want plagiarism. That doesn't mean I don't want you to be researching and using what you learn from other people. Include it. Just give them credit. Right? Plagiarism is such an easy thing to avoid doing if you are making your argument stronger. Right? If you are writing something, and even a presentation, here's a little, my favorite quote, okay? I learned this sometime during the first few years that I taught here, and I can't remember where I learned it from, but it's a quote from Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, right? Mark Twain, after writing some correspondence to a friend, included a P.S. It said, P.S. If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. It's a great quote. Okay? Don't be on projects, at least that you hand in to me. I'm not going to tell you what really a minimum number of words or paper or pages is, because I don't want you to put filler in there. Okay? It's harder to write a succinct paper than to ramble and ramble and ramble. Okay? So, how long does your project need to be? The answer is, it needs to be as long as it needs to be in order to get the points across that you need to get across. Right? So, those are some of the things that I really want to talk about. The outline is what we're going to be doing every week is on the syllabus. Note, I jump around a lot. The chapters will not go in numerical order. Okay? The reason for that is I like to do the interesting stuff, the cultural stuff in the beginning, and then do the business stuff toward the end. Why? Because I think the cultural stuff is the most interesting stuff. Right? All right. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. Last page is a Javelina honor code. Just fill it out, sign it, and then put it away so you remember you signed it. You're on your honor to honor your honor code that you signed. All right. With that, I hope you enjoy the class, and we'll get back together in a little bit. Meanwhile, please order the book, especially if you're going to get a physical book. It's only a 5-week class. You want the book as quickly as possible. Spring for the extra bucks to get priority processing to get the book here earlier. If you're getting electronic books, those obviously are a lot faster. That sometimes you can get those instantaneously, if not within 24 hours or so. Anyways, I look forward to having you in the class. Okay, and if you've got any questions, please send me an email and we'll go from there. Bye bye.